Today, I'm going to show you how to stop thinking like a human and start living from the awareness of God. And yes, the title, How to Think Like a God, is a little bit of a play on words because God doesn't actually think. God simply is. When you learn to rest in that still, unchanging awareness, the pure I am, your whole life transforms. So what is God? God is the truth. God is Sat, which means the truth in Gurmukhi. And the truth is that which never changes. Everything else is Asatya, which means the untruth, because it is only true in the middle. So, for example, think of dreams, okay? There is a moment before you have a dream, then you have the dream, and then the dream doesn't exist anymore, right? So this is Asatya, because it's not the truth, because it is temporary. It only exists in the middle. And it can be said of emotions, right? There's a time period before you feel angry, then you feel angry, and then you don't feel angry anymore. And there's a time period of, before someone enters your life, they enter your life, and then they leave your life. You see, so all of these things are very temporary. These things are like dreams, right? So these are not considered the truth. The only thing that is considered the truth is that which is unchanging, that which is forever. And the only thing that is forever is God, because God existed before time. God exists now, and God will always continue to exist. God has no beginning. God has no middle. God has no end. This is why God is the only unchanging reality in a world where change is constant. And here's the key. This same unchanging reality, this unchanging awareness exists within you. It is the I am, the witness, the observer. When we talk about God's nature, okay, I'm not talking about a man in the sky who's judging you for your sins and expecting you to be a little good girl and a little good boy. We are talking about the essence of being itself. Because look, the word God has been misconstrued, okay? We've all taken it, we've put our own little thing on it, and we've messed it up for people who actually want to understand what God is. But like I just said, God is an essence of life, okay? God is the primordial substance that pervades everything. I think it's really important to understand the qualities of God, because for you to attain the presence of God, to feel God in every moment, because that's what we want, okay? Because we came from God, right? There's one that existed, Ek Onkar, right? There's oneness that existed, and we all became separate from that. Well, we're not separate from it, but there's an illusion of separateness. So your soul actually remembers this. Your soul aches to be reunited with the one, okay? This is why we love relationships. This is why we need other human beings. This is why we need connection. This is why we need intimacy, okay? Because we yearn to be with the one again. The one has certain qualities, okay? And when we want to live from that essence, from our God self, we have to take on these certain qualities. So the qualities that God has is unchanging. So God is beyond time, unmoving. God is unaffected by circumstances, silent and still. God is the backdrop to all activity, divine and full of potential, the source from which everything arises. Look, this isn't something that you can think about, okay? Soche sochna hove je soche lakbar, okay? Japji Sahib giving you all the information. You can't think of God, okay? Because God is beyond a thought, okay? God is an experience. God cannot be seen with your physical eyes. God has to be seen internally. This is why you have to go inwards. This is why they say everything is within you. But the thing is, the world is surrounded by loads of chaos, right? Look at me, look at me. Everything is vying for your attention. So your attention is always outwards. It's never inwards. So then you can never have a direct experience of God. Also, on top of that, your sensitivity has been numbed, okay? You've overexcited your sensory organs, okay? So now you can't feel into the subtle energy, which is God. When I'm talking about I am, what am I talking about? So when you introduce yourself, what do you say? I say, I am Priya. I am Indian. Okay, I don't always say I am Indian, I'm a life coach. These things we say about ourselves, right? It always starts with I am. Because the I amness, like what is the I amness? Are you Priya or are you I am Priya? I wouldn't just say Priya, it's like my name is Priya, I am Priya. Do you get? So it's the I amness that is the part of you that is the part of God, that is the unchanging, unmoving, silent and still, divine and full of potential part. When you start identifying with this awareness instead of this temporary story that you have been given, right, of your personality, of your ethnicity, of your gender, of whatever it is that you have that makes up your story, then you start living in truth, because you start living with something that is forever. You're not living with a temporary story of, oh, okay, you know, my name is Priya, blah, blah, blah. It's no, I am living from consciousness. I'm living from the essence of God. And that's powerful. What you'll find is that everything else comes and goes, okay? Thoughts and emotions come and go. Feelings come and go. Your body will change, right? Everything is constantly changing. But your awareness is the one thing that stays the same. It is unchanging. So, okay, you know how people, like, for example, age. People say, oh, I don't really feel older. You know, you ask someone and it's their birthday and you say, oh, how do you feel now? And they're like, I literally feel the same. I don't feel any different. This is because they're speaking from their awareness, right? Because that part is never aging. It's always the same. This is why 80-year-olds feel like they're children still, or there's no like definite thing that you can say, oh, okay, now I definitely feel a little bit older. It's experience. So time, it's beyond time and space, okay? God is beyond time and space. Now here's something most people miss. God is not separate from creation. God is both the dancer and the dance. You literally cannot separate the two. Without the dancer, there is no dance. Without the dance, there is no dancer. The movement of life is God expressing itself, okay? Because consciousness used to be like one compact thing, okay? And then it thought, you know what? I want to experience myself from loads of different experiences and perspectives. And it thought, I want to see life through Priya's eyes. I want to see life through, you know, Martin Luther King's eyes. I want to see life through Michael Jackson's eyes, and whoever you can think of, okay? Because life gets to experience so many different perspectives and like so many different experiences, and it likes that. So yeah, we are all separate, but it's an illusion, okay? Because God exists within all of us, right? We are all a drop in the ocean of consciousness. This means that we don't have to go anywhere to search for God. We don't have to go outside of ourselves. In fact, it is the last place that we need to go. We need to go back inwards. But then also be aware of the fact that God is in everybody. So just be aware of the fact that, okay, anybody who comes to me is God expressing itself, right? Can you imagine how differently you would treat people if you thought, okay, this is God right in front of me? You're not a visitor in God's world. You are God's world. This moment right here is the divine moving through you, okay? You came to this video for a particular reason. Clearly someone wants you to hear this message, and I really hope that it's understood by you and you're getting it, okay? Because we're going to get onto some juicy bits of how you can actually begin to reside in God's state at all times. And I mean, eventually, if you do it well enough, you reach enlightenment. So, you know, just casually helping you there. There are a few things that we need to understand about consciousness. Consciousness is not trapped in your body. It is your body that appears in consciousness, just like your thoughts do, just like the world does. When you close your eyes, you'll still find awareness, without shape, without boundaries. It existed before this body, and it will exist after this body, because when you are birthed into this world, there is a part of you that will never ever die. It is a part of God, hence why it is unchanging and beyond death. So what the point of this video is to help you learn to identify as the witness, okay? The witness, God, the observer, whatever you want to call it. Because when you identify as the witness, you bypass years of digging into psychological wounds. You no longer need to fix yourself because you are already whole. You stop reacting from the fear of the ego. You become deeply peaceful no matter what is happening around you. You live in the alignment with what's eternal, not the thing that is temporary. So I have been doing this, okay? I went to bed one of the nights, right? I came back from meeting someone and I remember just overthinking, and I remember just stepping back and then observing myself overthinking and thinking, okay, right, I don't want to identify as that person anymore. I don't want to have any thoughts, okay? I'm not my thoughts. So I took a step back. That's what it feels like. It feels like just stepping back into the observer, the witness, and I was just watching all of these things happening around me. And then I decided to sit, I decided to meditate for a bit. And then I was really calm and peaceful. And I remember going to bed thinking, I am God, I am God. You know, that's who I am. I'd identify as God. And then even when I would wake up during the night, it was kind of just like this tune, this like thing that just like was playing in my psyche, that I am God, I am God. And I woke up and I had this realization, and I felt so much peace, I felt so much power, and I realized I don't have to have, I don't have to engage in all of this chatter all the time. I don't have to like fight my negative thoughts or fight positive, whatever it is, like, and think about where the trauma came from. And that's my shadow side, and this is this. I can simply just take a step back into the witness, because it is just silent, it is just still. It doesn't have a personality, it doesn't have emotions, it doesn't have thoughts, it doesn't have anything. And it feels like it wouldn't be that enjoyable. Like, how can you enjoy something when there are no emotions, and there are no thoughts, and there is no drama, and there is no chaos? But funnily enough, I think they call it peace. I think that's what they call it. They call it bliss and peace. And that is what I was experiencing. And life just felt easy. I felt like I was floating, lighter, you have to connect with it to get to understand. Words and language is limiting. I can't even describe it to you. I can't describe how it felt well enough. It's ineffable. Now, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can get into this state, okay, and remain in this state. So what you can do is have a morning and night anchor. So when you wake up and before you sleep, you can repeat, I am not my body, I am not my thoughts, I am not my emotions. And then consciously just sit there for a moment and just tune in with the quiet, unmoving, still part of you. And then slowly what will happen is it will feel weird. And then eventually you get to the point where it lasts for half a second, and then maybe a second, and then 2 seconds. And then you go to sleep with that thought, and then you wake up, and hopefully what will have happened is that you will have had that thought throughout the whole time you're sleeping. And then what's happening is that you have deep awareness whilst you're sleeping. It's called dream yoga, okay? It's where you're aware all the time, you don't shut off. What you can do as well is witness meditation. This is where you begin to watch thoughts and emotions without judgment. You just constantly remind yourself, I am not my thoughts, I am not my thoughts, I am not my emotions, and you just watch them. It's almost like you're watching a movie. You're just quiet, you're objective, you're a quiet observer watching a movie, and things are happening and you are completely unresponsive. You're not being, reactive towards them. You're not getting triggered by them. Nada. The next thing you can do is pause before reacting. In challenging moments, breathe and gather yourself together. Remember that the witness is untouched. You can't annoy the witness. You cannot trigger the witness. You can't upset the witness. You can't do anything to the witness. The witness is simply a witness. Next one is silent time. Silent time is so important, okay? How often do we sit in silence? How often are we just being? But the witness is simple. It just is watching. It doesn't need anything. It just needs to be. This is going to help you so much. You can ask yourself daily questions. So you can ask yourself, what is it in me that never changes? And then just sit in that recognition. You must seek only that which is unchanging, because everything else will fade. The thing that is unchanging is the truth. Everything else is the untruth. When you rest in the eternal witness, you're not just thinking like God. You're living as the truth of God within you. Because the truth isn't something you find. The truth is something that you are. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it made sense. And if you have any questions or any comments, leave them down below. And don't forget to subscribe if this is the kind of content that you'd like to see. Love you. Bye.